Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakahagwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Isaiah chapter 24, verses 7 to 11. And this is dealing with the breakdown, mentally, physically, and spiritually of the United States of America, which is biblically known as Babylon the Great. The new wine mourneth, the vine languisheth, all the merry-hearted do sigh, the mirth of tabrets ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth. And you can clearly see that with each passing day, an ever-growing number of Americans out here are getting stressed, whether they're worried about being able to pay their bills or not, keep their job or not, becoming homeless, etc., etc. This country, again, is broken down and collapsing at all levels, and it's not going to get any better going into 2023. Inflation's only going to get worse. Expect to see hyperinflation. Job losses are going to continue. These food shortages are going to ramp up. Hey, all these hot spots leading to World War III are brewing all across the planet. There's talks of a new wave dealing with pestilences. And then, of course, the main thing we're waiting for is this economic collapse, which is going to make the Great Depression look like a day on Sesame Street, which is what's that going to lead to? The implementation of these CBDCs, these central bank digital currencies, which is what the stepping stone towards the main event, the mandatory implementation of the MARKOFTHEBEAST in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, the Charagma, the RFID/NFC, MICROCHIPIMPLANT. They shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. Hey, a lot of people out here are turning to heavier alcohol use, heavier drug use, not to have a good time, not to relax from a hard week at work on the weekend. They're turning to it because they're depressed. They see no way out. Again, worried about bills, going homeless, being able to put food on the table for them and their children. The city of confusion is broken down, and Babylon in the Hebrew is Babel, which means confusion. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. Hey, these continuing job losses, which are only going to get worse in 2023. You've got a lot of major corporations out here already saying as much, that next year, well, shit, beginning this year, they're beginning to lay off thousands of workers. There's a crying for wine in the streets. All the joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. And that crying for wine in the streets ultimately goes into people looking for answers out here. What are we going to do? How's the government going to help us? But ultimately, the only answer you're going to get is judgment and destruction from Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi for all the wickedness you people, especially in the United States of America, have been committing. And I opened up the video with these verses to preface an article on endoftheamericandream.com titled, "Here are some long-term trends that are slowly killing America." And just to back up that Isaiah chapter 24, showing that the city of confusion is clearly being broken down. Just about everyone realizes that this country is way off track at this point. Our society is very rapidly deteriorating all around us. Economic conditions just keep getting worse, and our politicians in Washington appear to be more corrupt than ever. But even though so much is going wrong, There is very little agreement about what is needed to set things right. And there is going to be no setting things right. As it says in, I believe, Jeremiah chapter 51, we would have healed Babylon, but she cannot be healed. We're living in the twilight hours of the United States of America, still existing. It's going to continue to break down until it's in a state of complete anarchy and chaos all around the country, with mass death, starvation, pestilences, martial law, civil unrest, racial skirmishes, any horrific thing you can think about. And then the United States of America is ultimately going to be wiped off the face of the earth by 200 million nuclear missiles, which is going to turn this place into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. Just read Jeremiah chapter 50 and the end of Isaiah chapter 13. And the main nation that's going to lead this nuclear charge against the United States is Russia. And we can see that Russia is building up its nuclear arsenals and military assets to get ready to fulfill those biblical prophecies. In fact, this nation is now more divided than I have ever seen in my entire life. Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, brother against brother, city against city, you name it. And besides being known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the United States of America is also known as spiritual Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. So even though Americans are feeling increasingly negative about themselves, the country, and everything around them, there is absolutely no consensus about where to go from here. Back in Isaiah 24, verse 11, there is a crying for wine in the streets, a crying for answers. What are we going to do to make things better? But as that last paragraph just said, there is absolutely no consensus about where to go from here. Americans' positive self-assessments of their mental health are the lowest in more than 2 decades of Gallup polling. In all, 31% of U.S. adults describe their mental health or emotional well-being as excellent, the worst rating by 3 percentage points. Another 44% of Americans rate their mental health as good, and the 75% combined excellent and good rating is the lowest on record and 10 points shy of the average since 2001. In addition, 17% of U.S. adults describe their mental health as only fair and 7% as poor. The latter figure is the highest in Gallup's trend. Of course, those numbers are just part of the story. A previous survey that was conducted by CNN found that approximately 90% of all adults believe that there is a mental health crisis in the United States today. And that's very easy to see. Just down here in New Orleans, in the surrounding areas like Metairie or Kenner, you're seeing a growing homelessness population, and not just homeless people, but mentally ill homeless people, whether just bugged out by so-called mental issues or demons plaguing them, or just being drug addicts. Hey, just a bunch of dirty homeless people walking around talking to themselves. That's becoming a common everyday occurrence. And it's like that for much of the rest of the country as well. An overwhelming majority of people in the United States think the country is experiencing a mental health crisis, according to a new survey from CNN in partnership with the Kaiser Family Foundation. 9 out of 10 adults said they believe that there's a mental health crisis in the U.S. today. Asked to rate the severity of 6 specific mental health concerns, Americans put the opioid epidemic near the top, with more than 2/3 of people identifying it as a crisis rather than merely a problem. More than half identified mental health issues among children and teenagers as a crisis, as well as severe mental illness in adults. And it's safe to say that the millennial generation, and especially the Generation Z, hey, they're through. Just go to any social media platform, and TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, and just look at the stuff they post dealing with so-called social justice issues, identity politics, or anything like that. They're completely gone. Everybody just needs a great reset. And I can give a personal testimony I've seen just recently. My stepsister, who I believe she just turned 12, or she just turned 12. I heard her, or my stepmom, who would be her grandmother, telling me that she's not sure whether she wants to deal with males or females right now. And this is a 12-year-old girl just through. It is almost impossible to get 90% of Americans to agree on anything. But in this case, CNN discovered something that almost all of us can agree on. Our mental health is in a really bad shape, and it appears that this is particularly true among our young people. In June 2020, the CDC released data that suggests 1 in 4 adults ages 18 to 24 have considered deleting themselves. We have to speak in codes because of YouTube's algorithms. And according to the recent released Harvard Youth poll of 2,513 Americans ages 18 to 29, 51% of young Americans said that at least several days in the previous 2 weeks they had felt down, depressed, or hopeless. So what happens when we are feeling down, defeated, and depressed? We go to the doctors and get some happy pills. In 2020, it was being estimated that 45 million Americans were currently on antidepressants, but that number is undoubtedly even higher by now. But even though tens of thousands of us are on happy pills, society as a whole just keeps getting less happy. Could it be possible that other long-term trends that we have been witnessing are directly related to this crisis? So people on antidepressants, abusing antidepressants, they're drinking alcohol because it's easy to get, doing other recreational drugs, etc., and to escape the depression, to escape the pain, to escape the hopelessness. Back in that Isaiah 24, verse 9, they shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. They shall not drink alcohol for good times, to celebrate. With Thanksgiving and with Christmas of this year, there's been a lot of articles coming out showing that for Thanksgiving, a lot of people had to cut in half their budget for what they could usually afford for a Thanksgiving meal due to inflation. A lot of people couldn't afford turkeys. And then during Christmas, a lot of people were saying, hey, either we got to get less presents or we don't even have money to afford any presents for this year. So that would definitely cause people to be drinking to drown out the pain during the holidays. This part of the year is supposed to be the happiest time of the year. They shall not drink wine with the song drink. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. People taking drugs recreationally to numb the pain, getting hooked on antidepressants, opioids, prescription drugs, etc. I'm gonna skip this part right here because it's just going into how church attendance in the U.S. has gone down over the years, which is a good thing because the Christianity is bullshit. At least people are waking up to that fact. The only truth being preached is by the true prophets of the Most High, the men of the Lord, out on the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up video epistles online. The Hebrew Israelites, not the black Hebrew Israelites, because the Hebrew Israelites consist of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as the Israelite foreigners who look like these heathen nations. And with each passing day, we can clearly see that Yahweh Bahashem Yahawashi has his spirit rested on Great Millstone, or GMS, who's preaching the the doctrine of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, breaking down these scriptures correctly in 144% truth. At this point, faith has been basically eradicated from our public schools, and as a result, we are now raising a generation without any moral foundation whatsoever. From libs of TikTok's Twitter page, welcome to California. Start this back from the beginning.
Nike store getting looted.
And at this point, seeing scenes like this is just becoming a common everyday occurrence, about as common as you going to Starbucks and getting a Frappuccino. Down here in New Orleans, hey, there's shootings every day, killings every day, carjackings every day, etc., etc. And as society continues to deteriorate and it gets more lawless out here, these instances of violence are going to increase and get even worse. Look at what's about to take place in Illinois at the beginning of 2023. They're about to eliminate cash bail bonds on particular crimes, pretty much decriminalizing them. And that's going to create a very purge-like environment up there. And some of the offenses that are going to be made decriminalized due to cash bail bonds being taken out is second-degree murder, which if you're committing second-degree murder, you might as well be committing first-degree murder, kidnappings, burglaries, threats towards political figures, etc., etc. And best believe that's just a testing ground of what's taking place up in Illinois. Chicago's already a war zone. They don't call it Chirac for no reason. And that is just going to spread to the rest of the country as well. Let's go to Matthew chapter 24, I believe verse 12. Yeah, Matthew 24, verse 12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And when we go into that word iniquity in the Strongs, it's G45:8, anomia, the condition of without law, such as eliminating cash bail bonds, decriminalizing some very major crimes up in Illinois because ignorant of it, because of violating it, contempt and violation of law, iniquity and wickedness. And this is ultimately talking about the world not being governed and violating and ignoring the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai in the scriptures. But hey, also goes into the laws of these different governments out here. Different measures are being put in place to create conditions, create lawlessness conditions, causing these criminals out here to just violate and ignore the laws. And it's just going to lead to what? The love of many waxing cold, people becoming more bold out here to do anything they want because they know that the police won't show up to stop it. And look at what's taken place over the past couple of years in the aftermath of the George Floyd protests of 2020. You saw calls for defunding the police and some police places being defunded and morale amongst police officers dropping. So a lot of them are leaving the police force. It's all a vicious circle playing into itself to create this lawless society out here, this dog-eat-dog society, this chaotic society, which best believe a lot of that is engineered by the elites, the powers that be, so they can be justified in bringing in a state of martial law to further implement their GREATRESET, their Fourth Industrial Revolution, their NW0. We are rapidly becoming a Mad Max society where anything goes. Hey, because iniquity shall abound, lawlessness shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Crime is out of control all over the country, and open air drug markets operate freely in many of our major cities. Now I'll skip that right there. That's just talking about how the U.S. borders are so porous, meaning anything can get through it, that so many drugs are flooding into the country that there's now more fentanyl in the country than American citizens. And there's enough fentanyl in this country right now to kill every American citizen. Right now, we are dealing with the worst drug crisis in the entire history of our nation, and it is getting worse with each passing day. Because people see no way out. They're trying to find an escape from reality. They're trying to, they shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. Why? Because the mirth of tabrets ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth. They see America getting worse and worse, and that there's no light at the end of the tunnel, no hope, which is true. The only thing coming to America is more anarchy, death, and destruction, and ultimately this place being wiped off the face of the earth by those nuclear missiles. In this article, I have only touched on a few of the long-term trends that are slowly killing America. Everywhere you look, things are not going well. And one recent survey found that 65% of all Americans believe that our country is on the wrong track. By 65 to 26%, Americans say the country has gotten off on the wrong track, not headed in the right direction. At the end of last year, those surveyed said by 57 to 30%, the country was on the wrong track. Not exactly a measure of national exuberance, but a less dire assessment of the future as a new year approached. I truly wish that I could tell you that things will get better in 2023, but that wouldn't be the truth. In fact, things will soon get much, much worse. And he's true on that statement. We're living in the times of the great judgment of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai on you people on this planet, especially in the United States of America, for all the wickedness you've been committing. Hey, all these haughty and proud looks are about to be brought low, and it will be known that there is a greater power, and that he's a power of judgment, righteousness, and vengeance, and he alone will be exalted when everything is said and done. Now I'm going to close it out in Isaiah chapter 2, verses 11 to 12. The lofty looks of man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down. The prideful, boastful, arrogant, narcissistic spirits of these people out here, especially in the United States of America, being brought down, which, as we read in that article, hey, we're in the beginning stages of it right now. People addicted to drugs, people, young people in this instance, contemplating suicide at higher numbers, people more depressed than ever, people seeing no hope or betterment for life in America, etc., etc. And Yahweh alone shall be exalted in that day. For the day of Yahweh of hosts shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty, and everyone that is lifted up, and he shall be brought low. Again, when everything's said and done, it will be known that there is a higher power out there when he brings this great death and destruction and judgment on you. And the name of the Heavenly Father is Yahweh, and the name of his Son, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, is Yahawashi. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. As we can clearly see, we're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, primarily from that whore, Babylon, the city of confusion, the United States of America. So as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.